Okay, so big news right here with Avaya and Skype. You've heard of them. Avaya, I mean, you had to have heard of Avaya, but Skype, you've heard of Skype. Depending on what industry you are in, that may be more or less intriguing for you. I know in academia, colleges and universities, they're big into Skype, mainly because as their professors and research groups are collaborating across the world, Skype tends to be a very cheap, i.e. free way to communicate. And again, really, it's all voice over IP. It's a kind of a dedicated client that goes on your computer and allows you to talk to other Skype people. Well, this is a really cool thing about how Avaya is partnering with Skype. Yes, it is true. Both companies are owned by the same parent company, at least for the moment. Skype is looking to go public here. But in the meantime, they're owned by the same, so it makes sense there'd be some kind of a collaboration. But when we're talking about this, the big question is, why would I want an Avaya, who is really selling to businesses, and Skype, who is really targeting consumers? What's interesting about that? Well, the reality is Avaya sells to businesses who sell to consumers. So the really cool part about that becomes this offers our customers, companies, businesses, enterprises, a way to offer a cheaper, free alternative and allow people who want to talk in that form of communication, Skype, to contact maybe your contact center using that client. So it becomes a pretty cool concept there. Again, there's three really big reasons when I think of how cool this first phase of the Avaya Skype relationship is going to be. Number one, again, just like I described, you have a call center, a contact center, and you want to offer maybe a click-to-chat button on your website, and you know that a portion of your population likes to use Skype. They're comfortable in it. It's their native kind of client that they would use. Well, they could click that, and it could all roll right into your contact center, and you could be answering those phone calls without your agents being on Skype. They could be on regular TDM phones for that matter. So it works out pretty cool that way. The second thing is maybe you don't necessarily want the Skype user themselves, but for non-Skype users, I can dial a phone number like a real 1-800 blah blah blah, and all of a sudden get turned into use the Skype infrastructure that it comes into you very inexpensively. Typically, you're just paying for the phone number, and then it's kind of free minutes after that. So that becomes very cool. So far, I've described inbound things only, which works, again, well. But the outbound concept, which is really our third category that starts to talk about just as a SIP trunk. Skype likes to call them SIP channels or Skype channels. But it really gives you that option to everything that we know and love that we've talked about on the show, talking about the magic of SIP trunks and their inexpensive and flexible use, directly applies. So Skype becomes a provider of that. Now, this is all phase one. Phase two introduces something, and this is going to be more later next year, where Avaya is going to utilize Skype to offer more federated presence between your enterprise directory and the Skype directory, directly embedded into things like Flare, 1X Communicator, those kind of deals. The next evolution of that is to say, well, wouldn't it be cool if I could take from your enterprise to the Skype infrastructure to connect to another enterprise? Where voices, we kind of do that already, video becomes somewhat problematic. I think all of us would agree that internally, video is pretty easy to do. And again, at the other side, video is pretty easy to do. But internal to internal becomes problematic. Well, that all is going to go away and become pretty easy. So Skype and Avaya using SIP, pretty cool stuff. I think you should check it out.
Hey, Dave. Is it true that Avaya no longer wants us using Compact Flash for our communication manager services?
Oh yes, you are in fact referring to PSN 1421U. We know that product service notice that just came out, I don't know, a few weeks ago, where Avaya made a very interesting statement where they're saying they no longer recommend for any system older than release 6 that you should not use Compact Flash as your backup mechanism for Communication Manager. Oh my Gosh, I mean, that's everybody. And no, they're not just talking about S8800s. They're talking about S8500s, 8710s, you name it. Anytime they're saying don't do backups to compact flash. That becomes interesting that we have to figure out a way to deal with. The reality is I've been a kind of a hater of using compact flash for a while anyway. It all comes down to the fact that when you back it up to compact flash, the question is, what are you doing with that compact flash? Are you rotating them off-site? Most people don't. They just put it on top of the cabinet or put it somewhere. What I recommend that you do is use the FTP or the SFTP option and back that thing up to an SFTP server where, and hopefully it's owned by the IT department, and they get it backed up with their normal backup strategy that they always have. And they usually involves a big armored truck showing up and taking the tapes off-site. But that way you're getting a true backup. So yes, any system older than release 6, Avaya is officially recommending that you do not use compact flash to do those backups. And oh, by the way, with release 6, it's just not supported. So it's every system, no more compact flash. Start using SFTP or FTP as an option. And for those of you that say, Dave, that sounds great, I can't do that, Cross has a wonderful offer where you can send your FTP and SFTP backups to us off-site, and we'll keep track of it for you. And if you ever need it, you just come and get it off the server. It's awesome.
Here on the content, we've talked about session border controllers before, but what better way to get it directly from the source? For this segment, we've got Dan Hoaglund from Acmepacket, and again, we've talked about Acmepacket, but they make those really cool session border controllers. Let's talk to Dan. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Dave, for having us.
So, again, I kind of spilled the beans, I guess, a little bit about session border controllers, but, maybe what do you guys do as a whole? I mean, do you focus on that? Is that your universe?
Yep, that's all we do is session border controllers. In fact, we're doing it for over 10 years now and actually coined the term session border controller. So we do it and do it well and have a dominant share in the market as a result.
So you coined the phrase session border controllers. Are you saying it didn't exist before you guys created it?
Yeah, there really weren't any network elements that encompassed what this particular element needed to do, which is to secure communications across the border. And we cut our teeth sort of growing into the space and the carrier, connecting them on their backbone. And fast forward to where we are today, as IP services migrate to the enterprise, we're now securing the borders for some of the largest enterprises throughout the world.
So now, was that your doing? Did you personally come up with session border controller?
Wasn't me. It was our VP of marketing, Seamus Horahan. So we'll give the credit where credit is due.
Those marketing guys, they always come up with the cool stuff. Now, on the show we talk about session border controllers, and I'll be honest, I have kind of oversimplified it by I generally tell people that think of it as a firewall for voice, but in reality, we know it does a lot more. Do you help us with that?
Yeah, absolutely, and that is a very generic way of describing it, and it is an easy way to get people to be comfortable with what it does, but it does go a lot beyond that, and SBCs are synonymous with security, creating a border point between IP networks and securing the communications, making sure that access is authorized, identity is authenticated, and protecting the core from DOS and DDoS attacks. But another big bucket, if you will, that the SBCs can fall into is interoperability. SIP is a family of standards, and at least 13 different versions last time I checked, and they don't necessarily talk to each other, so we're sort of the traffic cop that makes sure everything talks to each other and the communication flows across the border securely and seamlessly.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that customers always seem to be confused by. They think of SIP and they think of just easy, clean, plug-and-play interoperability, and it is usually very far from the truth.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is we've had situations where our competition will take weeks in some cases to even turn up a SIP trunk, and part of it is the interoperability, because we do dominate the carrier space so much that 90 of the top 100 carriers do use us. So the likelihood of any of the enterprises out there talking to an Acmepacket SBC on the other end to whatever carrier they choose is fairly high, fairly likely. So it makes turn up quick and easy.
So Dan, that brings up a really interesting topic of, a lot of people ask me, they say, hey Dave, I went and got a SIP trunk and the carrier provided the SBC, and yet you're telling me I should get another one. But do you run into that? How do you handle that?
Yeah, and that typically is the biggest hurdle that we typically have to overcome is, they say, I'm already secure, I got a private network, a private connection going out to one carrier, and they have an Acme SBC on the other end. Why would I need one on my end? And so it goes beyond the security aspect and not entrusting that provider to define security for the enterprise, but it goes to the ability to, once again, turn up those SIP trunks quickly and easily, and then be able to add services, features, and functionality on the enterprise side, not having to retest everything and be sort of, I guess the best way to describe it is held hostage to the service provider and having to retest everything. So the SBC is a good reference point by which you can test everything.
That's cool. Again, Acmepacket is a big partner of Avaya's. They're a big partner with Cross. Avaya is going so far as to put a software version of your product embedded directly in the system platform, to tie into Session Manager, all those things. Very cool thing. Dan, I just got to say thanks for joining us. This was really cool, and you answered some great questions. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Okay. Till next time.
Now, if you remember last episode, we talked about Avaya's collaboration launch, which coincided with Cross Telecom's perfectly launched episode of the Countdown. We talked about collaboration, and yes, we talked about that thing that I said, hey, let's not focus on it, that whole thing called the tablet, the Avaya video desktop device. Well, yes, I have one, the exact same thing that I say not to focus on. But, we need to talk about it a little bit, because ever since that launch, I'm out visiting customers, presenting to user groups, and everybody's really excited about the Avaya Flare experience. But they all want to keep talking about the tablet. And we have to know that the tablet really isn't about the idea that everybody wants to compare it to the iPad. It's not about comparing it to the iPad. For one, the iPad doesn't have high-definition video camera built into it. Are they talking, is the rumor that we'll see video cameras in an iPad? Sure. And Avaya's plan is to then port the Avaya Flare experience to that device. Well, we see it on the PC where we've got a webcam and we've got, yes, absolutely. But the reality is a lot of that stuff doesn't exist the way Avaya wanted it to really showcase what they were doing with the experience, the software. If you've gone to YouTube's website, youtube.com/Avaya, Avaya's got a channel out there now where they show a lot of examples of how you could use this in real life, whether it's doctors collaborating to talk about a patient, or whether it's in academia. Anytime you have something where you're going to collaborate with other people and video becomes a key component to that, it's a very good, glorious thing. But again, the other thing that I'm doing that probably isn't very realistic is carrying it around with me. It's not an iPad. It's not meant to be portable. Yes, I can undock it. Yes, it has a battery. Yes, it's got all those cool things, but I'm not going to put it in my backpack and carry it around with me. But I could, I suppose. But hey, Avaya Flare Experience, tablet, it's all good. So besides grilling pizzas, which you guys know I love, I am a huge fan of training. That's actually what my education is in, and that's one of the other things that I do at Cross is I'm the business unit leader for Cross University. So those of you that already know us and have been here, hi, it's me. But it's really good stuff. It really helps you get the most out of your systems. We have a ton of customers who buy Avaya product, and they really aren't getting the most out of that investment, and training is something that can really help you take that to the next level. We've got classroom versions, which I do quite a bit of. We also have online stuff, which is a whole series of modules. You subscribe to it. There's some are 3 minutes, some are an hour, some are even longer than that, but various topics. So, if you're interested in the sampling of some of our cross-university online, I'll have the marketing guys post right here a link to where you can go get a free sample of some of those modules. So, cross-university, it rocks, I know. Check it out. Getting my thoughts together in my head. What I say doesn't match the question. Not cool. Sucks. Sucks. Then either you suck or they suck. Somebody sucks. Who's got 2 thumbs and is in big trouble? We are!